When will life matter? When will life matter far more than profits? When will be the right time we begin to mainstream the health and life of humanity over making gains at the expense of human life? Over 70 years ago, in Otuabagi community, crude oil was first struck in commercial quantity. This liquid black gold, the people of the Niger Delta were made to believe was going to transform their lives, their livelihoods, and make the Niger Delta region just like one of the most advanced cities or regions of the world. 70 years after, the opposite is the reality. The environment almost irreparably damaged. The infrastructure and socioeconomic development seem like a mirage. Rather than development, we've seen loss of lives, increase in morbidity of the lives of the people of the Niger Delta. No potable drinking water. Water, they say, is life. But when water has been polluted by crude oil, instead of giving life, it brings death. And that is the reality. And I can speak to this because I have conducted researches for organizations and even government in different parts of the Niger Delta, where water samples were taken and were found to contain high levels of hydrocarbons, unbeknownst to community members, and they continue to consume them even till today. Recall in 2011, the United Nations Environmental Program submitted a report wherein they mentioned specifically a well in Ogale community contains hydrocarbon, benzene to be specific, 900 times above WHO permissible limit. How many years, perhaps, would have the indigenes of those communities been drinking this polluted water? And I can tell you for a fact, this finding corresponds with all the communities where we've taken sample and studied and analyzed that the water body, the groundwater from where we drink is markedly polluted with hydrocarbons. There is a state of hopelessness. People die every day not knowing the cause of their death. And of course, we live in a society where autopsies are not conducted for us to really ascertain the cause of death of people. You see somebody today hale and hearty, and in the next few minutes, the person is no more. Hydrocarbons are highly carcinogenic. There are different classes of hydrocarbons: the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, the volatile organic compounds, total petroleum hydrocarbons, and many others. And they gain access into the human system via three routes: through ingestion, when we consume food or drink water that is contaminated with hydrocarbon, as we see in many parts of the Niger Delta and has been corroborated by the findings of the United Nations Environmental Program in Ogoni. Through dermal contact, when we bathe water polluted by hydrocarbons, as we found in one of the researches I led in Otuabagi community. Otuabagi is the actual community where crude oil was first struck in commercial quantity. Shell Petroleum Development Company left Otuabagi in 1975 and allegedly decommissioned their facilities and installations in the community. But up till today, as I stand before you speaking, Oloibiri Oil Well 2 continues to spew crude onto adjoining farmlands and the Kolo Creek, incidentally, and sadly so. The Kolo Creek is where majority of the communities fetch water to drink, to cook, and even to bathe. Therefore, since the Kolo Creek has been markedly polluted by hydrocarbons, by bathing in these polluted waters, they are exposed to the toxicities and health impact of exposure to hydrocarbon. The third route of entry of hydrocarbons into the human system is what we call inhalation. And for me as a public health physician, and that has been confirmed by different studies conducted all over the world, inhalation is one of the most devastating manifestations of environmental pollution. Why? Because air is dynamic. The air you breathe here, it may surprise you. We live very close to the Atlantic Ocean, maybe coming from Europe, maybe coming from Asia, maybe coming from different parts of the world. Air is never static. And yet, we inhale noxious gases. You would recall that since 1975, the federal government of Nigeria has outlawed gas flaring. But whenever the deadline reaches, the federal government keeps extending the deadline. Why? You would want to ask. Because the penalties that is being paid for flaring gases has been seen by the government as a means of revenue generation. Well, let me take us to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as written in Chapter 2, Section 14, subsection 2B, where it clearly stated that the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. If that is true, we ask, how many more lives will have to be lost? How many more people will have to die before government and multinational oil companies and other, even our brothers and sisters that are into artisanal crude oil refining that we call fire, will have to take decisive action and mainstream the health of the people? Now, why is hydrocarbon very important, and how does it play a role in causing the diverse health implications and manifestations that we see, of which most of us suffer from, and we still do not know that we are suffering most of the health challenges we are having today because we are just so unfortunate to be born into the Niger Delta communities. Now, whether by ingestion, whether by dermal contact, whether by inhalation, once hydrocarbon gets into our system, it enters into our bloodstreams. Now, the red blood cells carries this hydrocarbon and supplies it to every tissue, every cell of the human body. And there is no system of our biology that is spared. Now, one of the major problems we have with hydrocarbon is that the red blood cells have just two major responsibilities: the transportation of oxygen to every tissue of our body and nutrients. Now, the worst thing about hydrocarbon is that even the red blood cells, they have a greater affinity for hydrocarbons than for oxygen. So whenever there is hydrocarbon, instead of red blood cells to pick oxygen, they pick hydrocarbon and supplies hydrocarbon to the nucleus of our cells. And if you understand how the nucleus happens, the very DNA that forms our fabric as a human being, that makes us exhibit the characteristics we exhibit as human beings, are encoded in our DNA. And it is in these places, in this nucleus, that the hydrocarbons are deposited. And over time, they get concentrated to the level where they begin to impair with the normal process of DNA proliferation, alters our DNA, change our DNA, and predispose us to all the medical conditions that we suffer. One of the manifestations, for instance, Let me talk about pregnancy outcomes. If you are in the Niger Delta, especially in Port Harcourt, and you even manage to achieve pregnancy. By the way, there was a study that was conducted by Laura et al. In 2017, wherein it was discovered that majority of the male residents in Port Harcourt have different forms of structural anomalies of their sperm cells. That is to say, most of the males that are resident in Port Harcourt cannot impregnate their wives. And you can take a walk through the gynecological clinics in both Rivers State University Teaching Hospital and University of Port Harcourt Teaching Hospital and attend the gynecological clinic, and it will shock you the number of persons that present to these hospitals just to have cure for their infertility. And of course, when there is a challenge in conception, who is the culprit? Is it not the females? It will be said that she may have been living an irresponsible life. Now she is married, she can no longer conceive. Meanwhile, it may be the man. No fault of his, he is just residing in the Niger Delta. This study was conducted in 2017 at a time when the atmosphere of Port Harcourt was filled with soot. And I'm sure if you are in Port Harcourt at that time, you can give credence to the concentration of the soot in Port Harcourt. If you manage to even get pregnant, there is a risk of miscarriage. Yesterday, I was supposed to be part of the pre-event dinner. I couldn't come because as I was about to come for the event yesterday, I had an emergency. A young girl of 24 years just had miscarriage, rushed into the hospital by her husband, and we had to stabilize, and I had to miss my event. And this week, that was the second case of miscarriage that I was attending to. This is our reality. If the pregnancy should even survive, there is the risk of what we call intrauterine growth restriction. You see a woman 7 months pregnant, and you expect the abdomen to be protruded, right? And she doesn't look like she's even pregnant, but she's actually pregnant. But the baby is not growing as it should grow in utero. There is the risk of what we call intrauterine fetal death, the child dying in the womb for unexplainable reasons. There's the risk of stillbirth. You give birth, and the baby dies immediately after birth. And we ask, how many more will have to die before we mainstream the health of the people, especially as we do our day-to-day business? Let that sink in. Another study was carried out by Professor Bieye Abe in 2017, wherein he found out that 20.73 per 1,000 live births have congenital anomalies. That is to say, there are deformations of babies. If you compare that statistics to what is obtainable in the Southeast, 4.43 per 1,000 live births. Northeast, 5.15 per 1,000 live births. And that is the whole of the Northeast and the whole of the Southeast is far, far less than what is obtainable in Port Harcourt alone. 20 that is to say that for every 1,000 deliveries, 20 of those newborn children are going to be coming down with different forms of congenital malformations. Down syndrome, hydrocephalus, spina bifida, cleft palate, to mention but a few. In the last few years of my practice, increasing in so, I have seen young people coming down with hypertension. I work in a university, hospital, Ignatius Surgery University of Education. And I see people, students, 19 years, 20 years, coming down with high blood pressure. It's an aberration. These are things that even for those that have the predisposition, because hypertensive diseases are hereditary. So if either your father or your mother has had hypertension, there is an increased risk of you developing hypertension. But that is only expected to manifest from 40 years. And most of these patients, they do not have any family predisposition to hypertension, yet they are coming down with hypertension. There was one case in point. A student that had hypertension, good thing, her parents were aware that she's hypertensive. She stays in the hostel. When she started feeling uneasy, she left the hostel to her boyfriend's house off campus. While she was there, her condition grew worse. She had to put a call to her mother to say, "Mommy, I am really down." The mommy said, "Please just manage. Very early hours of the morning, I will come." Unfortunately, the mother came and met the death of her child. By the time the mother came, of course, it was the boyfriend that was with her before she died, right? He was arrested. The mother came and said, "Please let the innocent boy go. He knows nothing about the death of my child. I am aware she is hypertensive." These are the realities. What about kidney diseases? I see young people, less than 20 years, having to undergo hemodialysis because of chronic kidney disease. Why? Probably the impact of hydrocarbon pollution in the Niger Delta. And as a medical doctor, and I'm sure most of us here will agree with me, that hemodialysis is just a palliative care because the dialysis machine is performing the function of the kidney, which is to filter the blood and remove toxins. The definitive treatment for chronic kidney disease is kidney transplant. So when you hear most times, "Oh, ritual killings here and there," no, it is no ritual killings. It is organ harvesting because of the high rate of kidney diseases. Same thing is applied to our liver, even to our heart. There was a patient I attended to 3 years ago. She was rushed into my facility from Ogoni area. By the time she came, she had what we call an ASACA, generalized body swelling, because all the organs of her body have shut down. The congested heart failure, enlarged liver, kidneys are gone. As I finished attending to her, of course, it wasn't a case we could handle in my facility. I needed to refer her to the teaching hospital. As they left my office, before they left, I called the brother that came with her. I said, "I just want you to know she will not survive." They said, just as they arrived at the emergency department of the University of PortHarcourt Teaching Hospital, she died. I ask again, how many more people will have to die before life truly matters in the conduct of our businesses? Therefore, whatever it is we do as government, as private business corporations, as academia, as civil society, as ordinary citizens, let us put our humanity first before any other thing. Today, I decided to lend my voice as an advocate because I realize that not everybody will have the platform I have today to speak. My daughter Vera, she was born in the year 2021. She couldn't breathe. Every night, it's as if she's taking the last gasps of air. My wife will wake me up and say, "Look at how she's breathing. Look at how she's breathing." At that time, we all know the activities of artisanal crude oil refining is always at its peak during the night. So the very air that we breathe as citizens resident in PortHarcourt is so pungent, you can sense the smell of diesel, of crude in the middle of the night. And my daughter was choking. And here I am, a medical doctor, treating other people. And my daughter is dying before my very eyes. And I can't do nothing about it. And I said, no, I'll do something about it. I went out, I did my research, and I felt if I keep quiet in the face of this injustice, this calamity, this sacrilegious act against the people of the Niger Delta, then I am as well an accomplice. Even if God forbid, I lost my daughter then, I was determined that no other child must have to suffer the way my daughter had suffered. Good day thing she's alive. And this story, I believe, a lot of parents will have similar stories to share. That is why I said, no, I'm going to use my expertise, my knowledge to advocate for a cleaner environment, for a purer air. When will life matter? Every action we take in mitigating the impact of climate change and environmental pollution, we're not doing a favor to the environment. We must know this. We are doing a favor to ourselves and to our generations to come. When will life matter? This is a thought-provoking question. And let the answer that you get while you sleep from today guide you into taking actions that will make life truly matter and worth living. Thank you.